Hello and welcome to another video on the channel, something a little bit different from the marketing related content that I would like to push on the channel. I wanted to talk about the breakdown of my £26,500 salary that I receive at 22 years of age. Now this is no means to be some sort of flex or any sort of, oh look at all the money I have, because realistically 26.5 is a fantastic wage for my age, but everyone else in my industry earns a lot more than me. So, potato, all that sort of thing. This is simply just to document and share how I work with my money and to show you a bit of a realistic viewpoint in terms of managing personal finances as a young person. So a couple of disclaimers before we jump into it. I'm currently living at home, so as you can expect, the expenses aren't going to be stupidly high like if I was, for example, sharing a place in London. Funny I say that. With the summertime this year, I am planning to move to a shared house with some friends in London. So I kind of want to do two different versions of this breakdown that I'm going to do. One is including the costs and expenses I have now and the savings rate I have now. And then I want to do the less fun version of myself placed in London when all of the London expenses that I expect to incur. And obviously that savings rate I think will be a lot less than what it is currently. The London tax and all that wonderful stuff. Okay, so here we are with a handy little budget planner tool. Now this is free to use for everyone inside of the UK. Tools like this are really helpful just to gauge where you are in your spending and to give you a broad overview. I would always recommend to create and work with your own maybe Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet document, whatever the case may be, just because you are in complete control and can keep tabs on your own situation whenever you want. It's a document that you own. You don't have to go through a website, etc. every single time you want to have a look at your budget. Once you have a spreadsheet set up, there's a million templates out there. So on £26,500 a year, my breakdown is as followed. So as we can see here, here's a little breakdown of the current budget. Again, this is a bit of a quick one. This doesn't go into too much detail because there are so many costs that will pop up every now and again, but I've done my best to keep it true to my current living situation. So as we can see here, we have $455 per month on household bills. This includes everything from rent to council tax, gas, electricity, water rates, mobile phones, etc. And that is simply my contribution to the family house that I'm in currently. Living costs is the basic food and everything like that. $178 per month seems a bit excessive, so let's have a look at what is going on here. So grocery shopping, £20 a week. That is quite standard for myself. Anywhere between sort of the 60 to £90 per month is what I would typically spend shopping for myself, food wise. Takeaways, I put in £25 a month. That's quite standard. And an interesting thing here, new clothes for you per quarter. I am someone who does buy a fair amount of clothing, so this might not even be too accurate. However, gives a bit of an idea and at least leaves room in the budget for new clothes, etc. And this does cover professional clothing for work. For example, whenever I move to London, most probably it will be a hybrid working environment, which would mean that smarter clothes would be a bit of an essential. I can't rock up in tracksuit bottoms and a sweatshirt like this and get away with it, I don't think. Now the biggest one on the list here is finance and insurance, £500. And what is this? This is quite simple. This makes up nearly a third of the entire budget. This is quite simply my savings. Currently I am very comfortably saving £500 a month straight into a savings account, keeping it in cash, ready to help with the move towards London. Now what I expect to see is this savings part, this 500 here, this big part of the pie chart right here dwindle as I start to break down the expenses for London. Travel and leisure are quite self-explanatory. I currently go up to London once a month for team meetings, and obviously trains aren't cheap, and if I did drive there, which I don't currently drive, that's a big expense that I don't have, is I don't drive a car currently because I work from home. Everything I need is around me, and that will be the exact same situation when London comes about, is I won't need to drive because who wants to drive in London, and everything I need will be within walking distance anyway. So a car is just a bit of an added cost at the minute that doesn't really hold its worth to me personally. Some people really like their freedom, be able to go for a drive and go wherever they want when they want, but it's not really a necessity for me at the moment. So yeah, travel is all things including Uber, including the train. And leisure, as you can expect, a 22-year-old is fairly high, makes up 14% of the current spending. You can see here cinema trips, days out, etc. Eating out, it could be higher than this depending on the certain month and what's going on. But 120 per month, that's probably what, two or three times per month. Eating out once a week ish. So yeah, overall the 1,500 right here is actually incredibly accurate, because once I've paid everything, once I have sent money to where it needs to go, around the £250 mark is what I'm left with in the current account. So what I've put inside of this calculator has been very accurate thus far. And we have to remember as well that nearly exactly a third of this total spending includes the £500 that I'm putting towards savings. So in reality, the total spending is probably just over the 50% mark. Tell a lie, the spending is probably around about 60%, and then 40% is the excess that I attribute towards this spare cash, which could be used for personal things or whatever the case may be. I have on many occasions put more money in the savings account, put less money in the savings account if I wanted to invest maybe in some crypto or some little fun money here and there for certain projects. It's really interesting to see by this breakdown that if, over the course of 1 year, if I didn't touch any of the money that was inside of the current account and didn't have any additional spending, whatever the case may be, the spare cash would be close to £3,000, and that is a lot of money. That's 75% of your lifetime ISA allowance right there. So, but the second stage of this is going to be what it's going to be like in London. So phase 2 has been completed. As you can see in front of me here, this is the budget that I've put together for London. Now, as you can see, couple main things. Not too much money left over. The total spending is almost the exact same as the income. However, the problem that we currently have, this finances and insurance section, where the savings, the £500 savings were, look how much is in there now. 0. I tried to attribute £250 to it, and then it put me in negative £239, and that is an overspend. We can't be having that. That's how you get yourself into debt. So this is telling me that on the current income that I have, the spending that I will have inside of London will essentially keep me almost on a paycheck by paycheck basis. Now that is quite an interesting place to be in. Nobody wants to be from paycheck to paycheck. It's a horrible situation that I simply do not want to be in. You look at leisure first to see where you can cut costs. Obviously, you have to remember I'm in London. I'm a 22-year-old in London. I'm going to want to have a bit of fun. I'm going to want to do my thing. I'm not going to just stay in the house all day, because otherwise I may as well stay here and save £500 a month or more. So these leisure costs, obviously, they attribute to a much, much higher percentage of the outgoings that maybe I would want to. Obviously, I put more money in for going out for drinks. I put more money into eating out. I put money in for days out, etc. I feel like the outgoings are going to be a lot higher in London, especially the first couple months where I want to go and explore. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because one thing we have to remember is there's a good chance that whenever I move within London, that my current employer will notice that, and then you would sort of hope, because one thing for me personally is when I am moving to London, I will have just over a year inside of my current job role. So I would kind of push for a bit of a pay rise. So hopefully this can sort of hit the 1,900, close to 2,000 mark instead of the 1,750 we have currently per month. But obviously the big telltale is 55% of the outgoings come from household bills. Obviously 700 for rent, that is going to be the bare minimum, I expect. We are sort of budgeting for £1,000 per month per person in total, just to get everything from a household survivability perspective sorted: the rent, the council tax, the utilities, the internet. Everything you could imagine I've put on here, and if anything, I've overspent on things like the council tax. I don't think the council tax is going to be 100 per month. If in real life it turns out to be 70 per month, and I will happily take that £30 and put it in my back pocket and use it just to pad out the current account a little bit more. But yeah, as you can expect, the internet will be. You got 3 people working from home in the same house, including myself, so you sort of want the best internet possible. So I feel like these costs are going to be high, and what I've seen, the sort of 700-800 download and upwards is sort of the £100 plus per month, which is a ridiculous amount of money to pay for internet. But obviously you're in London, you sort of want the best, especially if your job requires you to have a decent internet connection, as most work from home jobs do require you to have. Living costs are also going to be generally a bit higher. Goods and services are just much more expensive inside of London. The general grocery shopping, I think, would be, for myself, maybe even higher than £30 a week. We don't know. obviously takeaways and everything like that, and going out and eating are going to be sort of the main driver. Now this right here is something which I think should probably be just forgotten about completely. The new clothes for you. I feel like I should have a decent wardrobe before I even go to London, just to make sure I'm not going into all the designer shops and putting money on credit cards for a new jacket or whatever the case may be. So if we take out that and put it at 0, and again, this is a whole thing about sacrificing. Sacrificing all new clothes does leave us with a much healthier balance right here. Instead of the £11 we were left with in the current account, left with 77. That is a much better buffer. You think of it, this is like maybe 3 weeks plus of food shopping, for example. But yeah, so the household bills is going to be obviously this will always be close to the 50-60% of the current income. You have to remember that I'm 22, I'm not 35, of where, you know, I'm going to be closer to the £2,500-3,000 per month to offset the high cost of living inside of London. I'm going to be going there as a junior in the industry I'm currently working in, so it's going to be a bit rough here and there. I feel like having good money management skills is going to be so crucial for me as I start to move into London. But yeah, I will leave the link to this website in the description down below. I hope you found a little bit of value from this video. If you did, just leave in the comments down below any questions or any observations you have. I'm always open for discussion. But yeah, I just sort of wanted to document this process. I want to look back on it in like a year or two time and sort of do the same process again. But hopefully this number right here is a little bit higher. That would be very nice to see. But thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video. I would very much appreciate it. I'll catch you in a bit. See you later.